Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm really great to see so many of you here. I would like to welcome you to this morning's event. It's an event towards a potential thematic group on European Universities Initiatives. So we are very excited today to be joined by a number of alliances, and this event will be moderated by Eleonora Zvolo, who you can maybe already see, and John Donovan. I will have the pleasure in a moment to hand over to our EARMA chair, Evelina Branwell. But just to quickly point out, this event will be recorded to be added to our digital library. So if you do have your camera on, you might appear in the recording. And then also just to let you know that, of course, if you have any questions, we are reachable the whole time on the chat to help you. I will also share the agenda of the event on the chat again in a moment, just in case you would like to check that again. The event will run for 2 hours from 10 now to 12. And after the event, you will receive a post-event email from me with the presentations in PDF format, just in case you would like to see them again. So I hope we will have 2 great hours together. And without further ado, I would love to hand over to Evelina. Evelina, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Johanna. And I'm sharing my screen. And I hope you see the full screen now. So good morning, everyone. And I would like to say thank you, Eleonora and John, first of all, that taking this initiative to create this event, because this is very important. And I would like to put then this thematic group exploratory event in the context of EARMA. I believe that not everyone participating in this event are EARMA members, so it will be interesting to understand what is EARMA, what EARMA does, and how this then thematic group will be integrated into EARMA. So EARMA is our European Association of Research Managers and Administrators, and this association is has a lot of members, approximately 2,500 single contacts. We have more than 170 institutional members, which means that the number of actual people participating in EARMA is larger than that. And we have 200 individual members. Also, we organize annual conference and a lot of other events, digital and face-to-face events, and our conferences attract more than 1,000 delegates. And what EARMA is actually is for members by members. So everything we do together for each other. EARMA is a non-profit organization and fully funded by incomes from membership, events, sponsors, and so forth. It's also fully independent from any governmental or interest groups and so forth. So we are meeting together, sharing our experiences and learn from each other. And also we as EARMA contribute to the scientific research with our practices. So what does EARMA do? First of all, it facilitates best practice and information exchange. So we provide also professional development and training and certification. Then we promote research management and administration as a profession. And also we represent research managers and administrators to the stakeholders and other EU institutions. So very briefly, just to show that we provide professional development at any career stage, and you can be involved in the early stage of your career as a research administrator in the masterclass, or you can get a certification in research management, which is more than 4 years of experience, and then we provide a leadership program for research managers. And how the structure of EARMA looks like. So first of all, General Assembly is the ultimate unit that is responsible for association. And then General Assembly elects the board, and we have a number of standing committees where you can apply to become a member. And then, as you see on the right side, we have thematic groups, so which are initiated by anyone, pretty much any member, EARMA member, or even non-member. So just to look at this event, so this is initiation event, and we will explore the need at the broader context from the community if we want to continue working within thematic group and learn from each other within the context of European Universities Alliances. And then we have already planned next step, a face-to-face meeting in Brussels to continue exploring. So if you have more questions about association, about thematic group, please contact EARMA@earma.org. Thank you very much. So if we have any questions.
Okay, thanks Evelina. And so can I just again reiterate Joanna and Evelina's welcome to this event today. And I know the first question that you're thinking of is, why on earth has EARMA got a stake in the European University Initiatives? Well, if we go back to 2019 and that very famous declaration from Macron about the importance of collaboration in the European higher education space, you can see how that whole agenda has evolved over the last couple of years. And increasingly, the European University Initiative alliances have become key to the delivery of things like the European Higher Education Area, the European Research Area, the Green Agenda, the COVID recovery, and especially given events taking place to the east of the Union, the strategic, technological, and security sovereignty of Europe. However, the operational delivery of these European university initiatives depend critically on the administrative and professional services working in the background to make them work. But to date, this hasn't been to the front and center. And this event is the start of the process to highlight and try to address these issues at that side of the business. Eleonora.
Thank you, John. Just two words to introduce ourselves and to introduce me as a speaker, as a moderator. Like John, we are members of the board of EARMA board, and that is why we have initiated this initiative on European universities. I am Unaryazine, and I work at the Central Research and Innovation Department at Sorbonne University in Paris. I am a board member within EARMA, and I have 12-year experience as a research manager. So I've supported researchers both the unit level and the central administrative level in different higher education research institutions in France. What I would like to add to what John has already said, which is very important, is that we want as EARMA to make sure that these issues are raised more largely in the upcoming construction of the EU universities. We know how much these universities require transformation and complexity. And that is why we are launching an EARMA thematic group as an inclusive group of professionals working on the European Universities Initiative. We encourage everybody willing to improve things and to connect with each other to join this group. EARMA members and non-members are welcome. The next meeting is planned to take place in May, the 19th in Brussels. More info will come, but for the time being, save the date. As Joanna just said earlier, I ask you to put your question in the chat, mute your microphone, and if you want to speak, then raise your hand at the end of the presentations. I now leave the floor to John again for the continuation of the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Eleonora. So our first speaker today is Professor Ludwig Tilly, and Ludwig is a full professor and executive vice rector of I can never say this out cleanly, EC2U Alliance and the European networks at the University of Poitiers in France. Since 2015, he's been a board member of Coimbra, of the Coimbra Group of Universities, was elected chair in 2017 and again in 2020. And if that wasn't enough, he's also the coordinator of the EC2U Alliance and coordinator of the HRS for R label, and the Uber coordinator of the second wave of alliances through the 4EU2 forum. Ludwig is a physicist and works on the deformation mechanisms of nanomaterials. He's co-authored more than 70 publications and has given 50 invited lectures at international conferences and institutions, and I hope he will count our invitation as one of those. Ludwig has been a friend and a collaborator of EARMA for many years, and I am delighted to give him the floor today.
Thank you very much, John, for the kind introduction. I would like to thank you and in particular thank Evelina and the whole EARMA management for this very kind invitation, which is indeed the continuation, the sign of a continuation of our very fruitful and interesting cooperation between EARMA and the Coimbra Group. I will now share my screen, and so yeah, just very quickly, Coimbra Group in a few words. So this is actually the oldest European network of universities in Europe, historical Europe. Founded in 1985, now composed of 41 universities, 1.5 million students, 230,000 staff. We are, let's say, very much involved in the mobility and Erasmus program in particular. But very recently, on the occasion of the 15th anniversary of the creation of European Research Council, we actually realized that altogether these 41 universities are gathering more about actually 1,000 ERC grants. So that's actually interesting to know. The network itself, we are organized in working groups, which are covering the whole missions of the university, research, education, and let's say global outreach. And as you will see a bit later on, these working groups are now actually impacted by the European Universities Initiative. Let me directly jump to this topic. Now, just to tell you first a few words on how the Coimbra Group got involved in this initiative, I would say that it actually started from the very beginning. We are, since 2019, a permanent member of the stakeholder group, so-called stakeholder group, that is gathering all the stakeholders that have a role in the European Universities Initiative. So we were actually from day one involved in the design of this initiative. So this was actually the period 2018-19, and then when the two calls 19 and 2020 came and developed, the Commission continued to work very closely with the stakeholder group, in particular in preparing what was called at that occasion the future rollout. And we know now that we are actually in this phase of rolling out with the 22 call that is going to close next week. So I know that the first 17 alliances are currently very, very, very taken by this fine-tuning of their new proposals. And there will be, as you know, a new call for the second generation next year. And then one last one. Well, I don't know if this will be the last one, but there will be for sure a call in 24. So we have been also very much involved in the design of this new phase. We have been actually let's say, criticizing the new development, in particular, this push for expansion of the alliances. We may discuss this further at some point, but that's something else. Today, of the 41 Coimbra Group members, there are officially 34 that are involved in one of the selected alliances, and typically they are gathered in 8 alliances from the pilot phase: 4EU+, Arcus, CEARMA, Circle U, EC2U, Enlight, Uniwell, Unaeuropa. And we know that actually more Coimbra Group members are currently wrapping up their proposals. So possibly we will have more of our, if not all of our members in a selected alliance at some point. We are officially associated partner to 4 of them, and already a 5th one, which was not, which was actually already selected, but had not requested the associated partnership, have now asked or requested this status. So this is actually at the moment CEARMA, Circle U, EC2U, and Unaeuropa. And as such, we do participate to their dissemination strategy, and we are organizing with our members the one in selected alliances, but also very important for us, the ones which are not in selected alliances, because it is very important to disseminate all the outcomes and results. We are organizing regularly similar types of events like today, and we have in particular organized 3 public workshops on this topic since June 2020. And indeed, we can really say today that all the working groups, the one I presented just before, are now, I would say, positively impacted. It's not always positive because there is a question of available resources, but we can really see now that within all the working groups, there is discussion on the role, the impact, the strategy of European universities, alliances of European universities. So indeed, your discussion today is very much at the core of all discussions in similar associations. Now to go a bit more broadly, I think that today, if we try to see where the European Universities Initiative sits in the whole European policy agenda, I think that we can fairly say now that we only have to look at the European strategy for universities, in the sense that this European strategy was launched by the Commission on the 18th of January this year. You can find the link in this slide. We can fairly say that actually now, basically, this strategy is going to be the guidelines on all the developments for our universities in the next 5-10 years. So this is in a way our Bible for the next years to come. And actually there is, I believe, not a single page in that document where we do see or do not see the European Universities Initiative mentioned. In particular, at the very beginning, it explicitly mentions the fact that the strategy builds on the first lessons learned from the EUI. So that really sets the scene. And then all along the document, we see that actually the EUI itself is recognized as one of the 4 flagship initiatives of the European strategies for universities. And also very interestingly, we see that this flagship itself is explicitly linked to the 3 others, which means that actually, in a way, we could fairly say that this flagship contains the 3 others, or the 3 others are directly related to the 4th one. So we can clearly see that indeed EUI is seen by the Commission. I'm not saying that this is the proper way to see it, but the Commission really sees the EUI as a major initiative. And the 3 other flagship initiatives mentioned in this strategy are actually the legal statutes, meaning actually there is a wish to give to the alliances a possible legal statute in the European field. Also the so-called European degree, which would be a sort of new way to see how the degrees are delivered in Europe. Currently, it is only the member state competency to deliver a degree, there would be this idea of maybe moving towards the upper scale. Should it be only a label or a real degree? That will be the next developments. And the so-called European Student Card, which is also something very important for the mobility of students. So we see that indeed European Universities Initiative does link very strongly with these three other flagships. Also, all along that document, we see that EUI or the alliances in particular can really see are explicitly mentioned as key actors for other important initiatives. Typically, the development of macro credentials, and this is related to the education field. But also, with respect to research and innovation, there is a strong link with ECHA Innovate. Also, ERA hubs are explicitly connected to alliances. And of course, the green and digital transitions, etc., etc. So I think that indeed it's very important to go back to that document and just see how much EUI is very much cited. Now to look at another focus, you all know that there is an ongoing development regarding a possible reform of research assessment. Last year, the Commission has launched a very large, very wide consultation with a variety of stakeholders to really see where we are currently in Europe in the research assessment practices. And there was this very important scoping report. You can find the link here. And in that scoping report, we see that, again, explicitly alliances are seen as test beds for new practices. And indeed, if we now look to the 41 alliances of European universities, you see them, the 41, there, the 41 logos from 19 and 20. And in details, we indeed see that now with both their Erasmus project and the H2020 SWAFS project, they do fully embrace all the missions of the Knowledge Square: education, research, innovation, service to society. And they are clearly seen now as potential test beds for systemic change in higher education area and research area. And in particular, in many of the SWAFS projects, we can see that alliances have proposed to develop new metrics in research, new peer review methods, a better recognition of all the disciplines, including SSH, gender equality in research, career development, new practices, and of course, full development of open and citizen science. So clearly we see that in this context of a future reform of research assessment, alliances will be key stakeholders. If we now look at another very important aspect, we can see that possibly they have also a very important role in the synergy between education and research. First, by breaking down the silos between the missions themselves, as I just mentioned, but also breaking down silos also between within a given university, between the offices. It is the first time that we see that for a single project, we have people from the research office working with the international office, with the education office, etc. And I would like to briefly give one example of the alliances that I'm coordinating, the EC2U Alliance. This has been selected at the second call in 2020. It is composed actually of 7 universities. The coordinator is Poitiers in France, and we have University of Coimbra in Portugal, IASH in Romania, Jena in Germany, Pavia in Italy, Salamanca in Spain, and Turku in Finland. We have 30 associated partners, including the 7 municipalities. And here you can see a few facts in figure. I will not go into details, but actually the most important is that when we looked at the research profile, because actually when we built the Erasmus project itself, we directly embedded also the research component. And when we look at the research profile of the 7 universities, we could actually see that first there were very strong similarities in their publication capacity. And this is what you see here with the so-called Wheel of Science, where you do see a color code according to the disciplines, and the size of the different points refers to the citation power. And when we cross-checked all the 7 let's say, list of articles, we could see that there were, over the period 1918, already 1,221 joint research articles between our universities, ranging from 2 universities publishing together up to 5. And when we looked at the details of these publications, we could see that they were clustering around 4, let's say, a major type of disciplines. And based on this analysis, we decided during the pilot phase to concentrate our efforts on 3 UN SDGs, namely number 3, good health and well-being, number 4, quality education, and number 11, sustainable cities and communities. And just to give you one example on how we have built in this synergy between education and research, we have created the so-called virtual institutes, which are joint without wall laboratories within the 7 universities, gathering teams of teachers, researchers, students, and other stakeholders. Each of them is based on one of the 3 SDG that I mentioned, and each virtual institute is also gathering activities in all the missions. And just on the education side, next year in September, next academic year in September 22, we're going to open the first 3 joint master programs, which are each based on one SDG. Which means that we are proposing a new way, a multidisciplinary, challenge-based master program, one in health and well-being, one in multilingualism and interculturality, and one in sustainable cities and communities. So that's one example on how we basically join education and research, but through the education components. But we are also already now launching within each of these virtual institutes, interdisciplinary summer school, a joint PhD training, joint research program with a mobility program for the researchers. And also we have started the first joint PhD thesis, which are also fully interdisciplinary. So these are examples. Ludwig. I'm actually over. That's okay. My last slide. So
well done. Well done.
Thank you very much. And apologies for this problem of sharing screen.
Thanks a million, Ludwig. That was a very interesting presentation, and it's very interesting to get kind of into the background, into the detail of the background of these proposals, and the examples that you have from your own network are. I can only say I'm jealous that you're doing so well. I have one particular question. I know it's one that you've been asked frequently, is around the issue of Commission competence in this space. And we're sailing a very fine line between needing a new treaty and doing something else. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I'm not sure I captured properly the question, sorry, but the thing is that we can clearly see that over the past 3 decades or 2 decades, the Bologna process has made progress if we look just at the education components, but clearly we are not there yet in the sense of indeed full recognition of all the types of degrees, really homogenization of the approach to education, and actually we could probably say the same regarding research, career developments, and so on. Which means that clearly my feeling from the very beginning is that since the Commission has issues in persuading the member states individually to really grasp the full capacity of the Bologna process and not only remain completely self-centered on this competency on delivering degrees, they basically cannot convince the member states. So they used actually this initiative to have, let's say, a sort of bottom-up pushing to the member states, because in practice, in the daily developments of the alliances, and I see the colleagues from other alliances positively nodding, we know that we are facing obstacles in all these missions. Yeah. And basically, we then come back to our ministers and we complain every day. And this is through that pressure, bottom up from us and top down from the Commission, that probably, hopefully, we will at some point really finally implement the Bologna process, but more globally, the full homogenization of the research area, etc., etc. So I think this was a strategy from the Commission to make changes, make things change in a way.
Okay, thanks, Ludwig. We have a couple of questions from the audience, and I'm thinking, Nicholas, you had a question very early on. If you want to jump in and introduce yourself and ask your question. Okay, maybe I'll ask it for him. If I just have to scroll back up to the, so Nicholas asked the question about how challenging was it to develop a winning proposal, and what was the most significant barrier in the developing process?
Well, that's actually a question, because we are a typical example of an alliance that actually placed a proposal at the first call, and actually we were the alliance ranked 18, and they selected until 17. Basically, we failed by 0.5 points over 100. So you can easily imagine the frustration. Yeah. But well, that's the game. So we basically placed another proposal the next year in 20, and we were selected this time much above the threshold. So we could actually, I must recognize today that for many reasons, including COVID, it was actually not so bad that we had one more year to prepare, to improve, because actually what we had proposed in the first attempt was probably completely crazy in what we were proposing. Still, we have about 300 deliverables over the 3 years, and we have already delivered 80 of them. So we are really working hard. Actually, teams are already very, very much exhausted, I must admit. But well, that's a different story. I don't know what's the secret, because I don't think there is any secret. The thing is that it has to be ambitious, but realistic. And of course, by saying this, I don't say anything. It very much deals with what's the signature, what's the ambition, the core ambition. In our case, EC2U means European Campus of City Universities. And indeed, the very core DNA is actually the very strong cooperation between universities and their municipality to the benefit of citizens. And everything, including the selection of the 3 SDGs, was very much guided by this core spirit. You need to have a core spirit, and then if you have an existing cooperation, which was the case because all the EC2 members are Coimbra Group members, so we were working together for 30 years already, it may have helped. But I think that there are also already selected alliances that were not cooperating before, so everything's possible. You should try.
Thanks, Ludwig. There's one more question I think we have time for. So it's Marie, and the question is basically around what are the priorities the EC wants to see in applications from the alliances. Do you want to ask your question, Marie?
Hello, good morning. Yeah, I am just a quick introduction. I am a research officer working in the Czech Republic for Palacký University, and my role is to enhance research collaboration through Aurora Alliance, which we are a part of. And of course, we have been already cooperating for a year and a half, not without obstacles. And as I see that now the alliances from the first call are very busy, as you said, wrapping up their applications, I would be very interested, because this is, and it's a year's time for us to prepare another round, and we are also implementing the Horizon 2020, the SWAF's call. So I would be interested if there are any major points, except the ones that you mentioned, the flagship initiatives that the European Commission wants to see, if it's more pinned down to certain concrete commitments that should not be forgotten in the application.
That's actually a difficult question, because it very much goes back to what is the mission statement of your own alliance, because we know that there is a diversity. Some have decided to, for instance, focus on digital activities, which I think is particularly relevant regarding, for instance, the digital transition. Some have focused on new degrees, new or interdisciplinary. I must say that in my case, for the EC2U, we were actually probably in the way too ambitious, in the sense that we cover all what we could have offered. And this is actually now, I must admit, problematic in terms of resources that we allocate. And we have now 300 people working on the alliance, and everybody's going crazy because we have so many deliverables and so on. But we do not regret, in the sense that we see that it has already now a very strong systemic impact on our individual universities. I was not believing that this would happen during the first year. I must admit, I was not sure yet that this would really work, in the sense that we would see that it's not only, let's say, a project next to the 7 universities, but really becoming a core activity of the whole group. Now I see, actually, as you said, we are reaching soon the midterm, and actually now I'm actually delighted to see that all our rectors are now citing the Alliance at every occasion, which is, I believe, the main point. When you see that it's not just a vice rector for international affairs as a topic, but the rector topic, you have won. Then it's only a matter of deciding if you want to continue to focus on what you have developed during the pilot phase. I must say that in my case, we have actually now started what we call the strategy task group, where we have all the vice rectors, not just international, working together to really see where we want to continue to develop. But what remains let's say, the guiding principle is the initial mission statement, because it was designed for a period going until 2030. The road is there, we continue.
Thanks, Ludwig. I think we've got time for one very short question, and I think the answer to this one is going to be basically yes or no. So from Ignacy, has your network planned actions to increase the collaboration among the researchers within the universities? And if so, how? So I think maybe we might, it's yes or no and a little bit.
It's yes, and actually it all starts with the H2020 project, where we are developing the common RNI agenda. We are going to implement the HRS for our label at the 7 universities. 4 of them have it already. The 3 others will now join. Common open science practices, etc., etc. So the H2020 SWAS project is a major aspect. And unfortunately, we do not know yet if there will be a successor. And you know that the 41 alliances have actually sent recently a joint lobbying text to the commissioner to request that there is clarification, because we need to know if there will be a successor. It cannot only be financed by Erasmus program.
And if I can just say, on that lobbying document, that's been distributed across all of the alliances. And if you feel that you would like to hand it to your ministry, by all means, do that.
Yes, please do.
Okay. Thanks very much, Ludwig. I think we're getting a bit tight on time, so we're going to move on directly. Eleonora?
Yes, thank you. We have lots of questions, which is quite a success, because we see that there is much interest around these issues. And thank you, Ludovic, for the very interesting presentation. So we're moving on to the next presentation, which is a case study. Unaryazine, with Catherine and Hideko, will present the Unaryazine University Alliance. Just let me introduce you with a few words, Catherine and Hideko. Catherine Van Even started to work at KU Leuven International Policy Unit in 2009 as advisor on Europe and North America. Since spring 2018, she has been contributing to the establishment of the Unaryazine Alliance, and in One Europe project, she leads the work package, the European University Ecosystem. And I will introduce Hideko just after. So Catherine, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Would it be okay? Yes, there's Marie. Would it be okay if we start with video right away, and then I'll continue? Thank you.
Thank you.
At Unaryazine, we are building a university of the future. With our multilingual, intercultural, and interdisciplinary offer, we strive to give students opportunities that no university can provide alone. We are working together to develop and deliver unique joint courses and programs. Achieving this isn't always easy. We need a trust-based way of working that bridges individual university structures, processes, and working cultures smoothly and effectively. To tackle this challenge, we've created 2 new organizational structures. First, self-steering committees, where we group academics from our partner universities by our 5 focus areas. Second are flexible support services, where we group professionals from our partner universities into thematic clusters. These two groups are brought together by what we call the project team approach. The development of each course or program is coordinated by one lead university. And for each new course or program, a project team is established. A project team is made up of the academic lead who represents the lead university, a number of academic colleagues from across the partner universities who have been nominated for their relevant expertise, the lead university representative of each support service cluster, and last, but by no means least, student representatives. Thanks to this approach, we unlock greater efficiency and cohesion. With one designated support services professional taking the lead, therefore taking the academics' questions back to their cluster, who in turn can raise questions directly to their local colleagues, there is no need for academics to check issues individually. So we can avoid crossed wires or duplicated efforts and streamline communication and collaboration instead. Communication and collaboration also occur across clusters, helping us to build new bridges between university departments, both locally in the project team and internationally through joint meetings of the clusters, boosting interdisciplinarity and professional development opportunities for our staff in the process. In the future, our project team approach will serve as a tool to build other pillars of Una Europa, like our research and innovation dimension. Ultimately, this approach enables smarter collaboration across our alliance, so we can transform higher education and research in Europe with impact and at speed.
Una Europa is continuously evolving. Less than 2 months ago, in January, Leiden University became the 9th partner university in the Alliance. There are strong links between the priority research teams of Leiden University, sustainability, citizenship in times of global transformation, public health, and the 5 interdisciplinary focus areas of Una Europa you have seen in the video: cultural heritage, European studies, sustainability, data science and AI, and One Health. All chosen because they allow us to involve over almost every faculty or school and research department in each university in the Alliance. On the next slide, you can see that in Una Europa, we collaborate at macro, meso, and micro level. I'm afraid that the slide deck is not moving. Yes, thank you so much. At macro level, the rectors and vice rectors support Una Europa at the level of the Alliance and within each institution. The highest decision-making body is the General Assembly, bringing together the partner universities and university-related members represented by their rectors. Then the day-to-day management oversight is undertaken by the Una Europa Board of Directors, consisting of the partners, vice rectors for international policy. And they are supported by the staff at the Una Europa VZW, led by the Secretary General. Una Europa is currently strengthening its governance by involving the institution's vice rectors for research and for education. At meso level, we have international academic incubators for each focus area. And those international academic incubators are a framework for faculties, for academics to create new joint educational programs, courses, mobility, new initiatives in general. And the academics are there supported by the Una Europa Flexible Support Services, bringing together professional expertise for teaching and learning, educational technology, student administration, mobility, doctoral training, and so on. And then at a macro level, yes, those joint courses and programs are co-created by teams of academics, of professionals, and students, according to the project team approach you've just seen in the video. In the One Europe project, EU funded via the European Universities Initiative and led by KU Leuven, that is the pilot project in which we are building the backbone of the Alliance and the educational pillar of Una Europa. And then we have the Unaryazine project led by the University of Edinburgh, where Una Europa is building its research and innovation ecosystem. There are a few key initiatives I would like to highlight today. On the next slide, you can see 3 of them. First, there is the Future Unilab, an actual lab with a core team of researchers, 1 from each institution, focusing on the future role of universities in society. They are collaborating with teams of visionaries and implementers. Then students can actually apply right now for Una Europa's joint Bachelor of European Studies, starting in September of this year. And work on a second joint Bachelor, one in sustainability, is ongoing. And then at the moment we have 11 doctoral students studying the doctoral degree program in cultural heritage that we are offering, leading to a double doctorate degree, but work on a joint doctoral program leading to a joint doctorate degree is ongoing. On the next slide, well, you have already seen that Una Europa is a community of academics, of students, and of professionals. And the establishment of these Una Europa flexible support services consisting of different thematic teams of professionals, supporting the academics in the development of joint educational formats, was an important milestone in the One Europe project. The flexible support services are a permanent unit contributing to the continuity of the Alliance. And each team consists of at least 1 colleague from each institution, being an expert, but also a linking pin to the larger group of colleagues in each institution that we need to achieve our ambitious goals. I can take the legal cluster as an example. Here we have 1 legal advisor from each institution interacting directly and speeding up work. How do those academics, professionals and students co-create new courses, new programs, new initiatives? You have seen the animation, but we are continuously improving our way of working. And recently, in order to achieve our ambition of a European campus that is as inclusive and diverse as it possibly can be, the board of directors of Una Europa agreed to add 1 diversity officer from the Leiden University to each team working on any new initiative, to make sure that this important perspective is brought in from the very beginning. Then a virtual desk has been developed to support joint work on documents and so on. And we also have an issue log. The issue log is our tool to keep track of what is going on and what is planned. The different thematic clusters collaborate in an interdisciplinary way. How do we coordinate their activities, the activities of the different teams? Well, the chairs of each team, they meet every 3 weeks, and bilaterally they also liaise with me as a work package leader. And it's important to mention that these clusters established under the One Europe project have then been extended to cover the research field. So in the One Europe project, already a doctoral training cluster was established, consisting of colleagues with the following profile. They have knowledge on the regulations on doctoral training and research at their institution. They have experience with joint and double doctoral degrees. They have knowledge on skills training for PhD students, but also for supervisors. And they know all about the policy on doctoral research at their institution and the different bodies involved, basically. And so this team of doctoral training experts is contributing to the format of the joint doctorates in Una Europa and the actual concrete joint doctorate in cultural heritage mentioned earlier. And then more clusters have been established in the framework of Unaryazine, our research innovation pillar, and Hideko Matsuo will tell you all about that.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. So the presentation is always in the same PowerPoint, I guess. Yeah, okay. Just to introduce you, Hideko. Hideko, sorry for the pronunciation. Hideko Matsuo works at the Research Coordination Office at KU Leuven for the Unaryazine project. She will present us, and which is the pilot project of Unaropa to build the Unaropa ecosystem since April 2021. She co-leads the work package 2 on research infrastructure policies and resources, and she co-chairs the cluster on open research in this project. Hideko, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Eleonora. My name is Hideko, and I carry on the presentation from Catherine. So this is about Unaryazine. This is funded by the EU Horizon 2020 project, started in February. So it's rather a new project. We are month 14 right now. As said earlier, it is led by University of Edinburgh to instigate growing pilot initiatives in order to build a common Una Europa ecosystem. And the key component here is that the main objective of the resin is to transform the institutional framework of Una Europa institutions to prepare for the next wave of global challenges and to make the research much more interdisciplinary and much more international. And by reaching that main objective, there are 4 activities in place. First of all, to pool our collective research strengths, research infrastructure and resources by developing shared strategies, priorities, and agenda to scale our interdisciplinary excellence. We also develop a vision of a value-driven common research culture that prioritizes excellence, well-being, integration, and diversity. We also work to develop frameworks that inclusively work together with citizens and non-academic actors across all regions of our ecosystem, Una ecosystem, in all stages of research and innovation lifecycle. This means that we are aiming to mainstream open science activities. And lastly, and most importantly for today also, to work towards our objectives in collaboration with the other European University Alliances. Marie, the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So this is the, Catherine has shown the global Una Europa structure. This is for the Unaryazine. So there are 4 work packages. Work package 4 is a management. The consortium leader is University of Edinburgh, as said earlier. Their responsibility, of course, is to oversee the very different work packages, but they're also responsible for data management and dissemination and communication activities. Now, work package 1 is they are creating the common and research and innovation agenda. The lead is University of Helsinki. Co-lead is Vrije University Berlin. Now, work package 2 is aiming at sharing the research infrastructure and resources. The lead is Unibo, Bologna, and the co-lead is us, KU Leuven, and also Paris 1. And the third work package is working towards strengthening the European human capital. And this is the lead is Jagiellonian University. And the co-lead is Université Complutense de Madrid in Madrid, and also once again Paris 1. Now these work package 1, 2, 3 work very closely with the clusters. First of all, with the research coordination cluster, work package 1, research infrastructure and resources cluster in relation to work package 2, and the research career cluster in relation to work package 3. But we also have 3, which is mentioned in this figure of the horizontal column. We have private, public, and third sector, open research cluster, and citizen science cluster, which is a transversal cluster, which really helps the all of these work packages, and we also work very much together. And then the next slide, please, Marie. Now, in terms of the work packages of 1, 2, 3, they all mostly cover and follow the common methodology. So basically, first of all, to define the scope, identify priorities, analyze and consult stakeholders to identify barriers and enablers, and then develop an action plan and roadmap to implement shared strategy, agenda, and policies. We design the pilot projects, we implement them, we will evaluate them, and then we will disseminate. The findings will cover the legal, regulatory, financial barriers, cost-benefit analysis, and propose for recommendations. Next slide, please. I think you skipped work package 1. Yes, thank you very much. So in the work package 1, so this is a work package dealing with the development of a shared research and innovation strategy. As we are month 14 at the moment, they have already established customer expertise, also provided benchmarking strategies, and they have consulted with the Una Europa communities. In the coming months, they will be very much focusing on the mapping collaborations, defining priority challenges, and also very specifically developing the Una Europa and research and innovation strategy. They very much take the researchers as a focal point and very much a bottom-up approach, and consider what do researchers want Una Europa to be. Next slide, please. In terms of the work package 2, I myself is very much heavily involved in this work package. We basically methodologically work with the definitions provided by the DG RTD on the definition of research infrastructure and resources, and we have so far conducted 3 mapping exercises. First of all, in the benchmarking exercise in relation to research infrastructure and resources, the national, regional, and the institutional level in terms of the policy and programs. On this aspect, we have worked together with work package 1. In addition, we have worked with the self-steering committees, Cultural Heritage and One Health, also with the data science and artificial intelligence to provide a methodological tools and support in the area of these 2 areas, cultural heritage and One Health. Now, on the basis of these mapping information we have done, reaching out to the researchers who are dealing with the research infrastructure and resources, we will be developing strategies and transformational models, eventually co-design the pilot actions aiming at sharing and opening of research infrastructure, not only for the researcher for the Una Europa institutions, but inclusively widening access to citizen and non-academic partners. The next slide, please.
Yes,
so this is
Hideko, just you have 2 minutes left, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so this is the work package for strengthening for human capital. They are mapping the current standards, identifying barriers to develop guidelines. So far, they have implemented the documentation analysis and also in-depth interview with the vice rectors and the surveys to the researchers, so that they have taken a triangular approach to be able to provide a mapping exercise and also provide recommendations, particularly in the format, in the area they're looking at is on the team science, open science, citizen science and business, and academic cooperation. So the next slide, please. Yes, so as very quickly going over what are the activities going on at the work package level, work package 1, 2, and 3. We have done our exercise in the initial 14 months. We have the drafts already circulated to the institutional level and also among the work package level. And tomorrow we have an opportunity to present this at the board of directors meeting to the other vice rectors and people concerned to be able to submit this documentation by the end of this month to the DG Research. And on the basis of these mapping exercise, each work packages will be in the next round from April with no rest, starting to prepare for the co-design workshops, which is happening, and also start really looking for the action plan and eventually for the pilot action. So the next slide, please. This is the end of the presentation. I would like to thank myself, and Catherine would like to thank Thank you very much for the organizer, Eleonora and Joanna, and John, for providing an opportunity for us to present the current work of Una Europa, One Europe, and RESI. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine and Indiko. I have a question for you. Do you think that these generally confederated international universities are possible? Which is quite a difficult question, but. What are the challenges actually in your mind? This is the question.
That is a very difficult one, actually. Sorry, unless you would like to go first. Hideko. Obviously, well, it depends on how far you see this well, confederation, or to a certain extent integration, if I understand your question correctly. How far you see this going, obviously. I think in Una Europa we try to involve as many faculties and departments as we possibly can, and we try to, well, we offer them the opportunity to be engaged, to be involved, and then when it comes to more practical aspects, we try to create a framework for this European campus to exist, to make sure that students and staff can move seamlessly, both virtually and physically. But obviously we have many other activities not related to Una Europa as I think for institutions of our size this should be.
Thank you. I don't know if we have other questions. I don't see other questions in the chat, so I think we will step to the next case study. John, I leave the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, Eleonora. And so far, those have been two amazing presentations, and I just feel completely underperforming when I look at what just the two other networks have presented us to already. I hope it doesn't get any worse over the next couple of hours. So the next presentation is from the 4EU Plus Consortium, and our speakers are Torben Hansen and Hakima Fasifiri. But so to introduce Torben first, he's the Senior Executive and EU Advisor at the UCPH and was previously at the other TUD from Denmark. He comes from a background in the FPs on the various national programme committees. Hakima is a law school graduate and with expertise in internationalization of higher education and cooperation between universities. And since November 2020, she is the operational coordinator of the European project at the 4EU Plus Alliance. So Torben, Hakima, who would like to go first?
Thank you. If that's okay, I can start.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Okay, so actually, well, thank you first of all for hosting. It's a pleasure to be here and to be able to hear also from the other participants. That's really a great opportunity. So thank you for that. So yeah, in a nutshell, I can tell you that 4EU Plus Alliance is actually composed by 6 universities, which are comprehensive research intensive public universities from European regions. Quite a diversity of European regions are represented in our alliance, as you can see here in this slide. So we have the University of Heidelberg and University of Copenhagen, the University of Warsaw, Charles University in Prague, the University of Milan, and Sorbonne University in Paris. So 6 universities having the same vision, sharing the same vision and common objectives, of course, as per the current project. Actually, we are part of the first pilot project. In fact, the project started in 2019, fall or end of 2019. So we are heading toward actually the end of our current EUP project by October 2022. So we have 23 associated partners that have joined us in the current project to support our activities and be able to participate with us in different large scope of actions actually. So of course, 23 associated partners are partners of the 6 universities. So we are, some of our member universities have 3 or 4, some have more or have less. That's not that's just a detail, but 23 is overall. It's really the global the total amount, a number of associated partners. They can be businesses, companies, state representatives, or entities such as for instance, city halls. So it's quite diverse. And next slide. Well, the flagships. We have 4 flagships actually. They are really embodying the vision and the actions and the activities, the pedagogical activities in our project, in our alliance. So it goes from, for instance, flagship 1, it's about health, demographic change, urban environment, to flagship 2, for instance, which is focusing on Europeanness, or Europe is in a changing world. So everything relating to Europeanness and European topics, studies, etc. And the third one is about actually the information, computation, communication, sciences, etc. So it's about transformational, the transformational role of these sciences within our societies. And the 4th flagship is about the biodiversity and the large umbrella of sustainable development. We agreed with EARMA colleagues and team to set forth or focus, have a few focuses in our presentation. At least, I mean, I'm talking here from the 4U+ EUP perspective, and also from the Alliance perspective. And here we have this focus on 4U+ legal entity. So this is really, it has been quite I would say an important achievement since actually we created legal entity. It's a German law association, in fact, headquartered in Heidelberg. And this is really, for us, it was from the start, and it was actually established last year in April 2021. It's for the sustainability and the continuity of the alliance, because actually we are probably, like other sister alliances, we are looking beyond the current project and looking beyond the what we have been doing since November 2019. We are looking at the future, and the legal entity is actually one of the tools, I would say, that enable us look ahead and look beyond the project that is being operated and implemented right now. So some other achievements here. We shared also, we wanted to share with you the joint course, what we call actually shared courses. It's just an example, in fact, of a very concrete example, because actually we agreed with the EARMA team that we would make, again, some focuses on some concrete achievements so that we can share with you what are the achievements, but what are the challenges as well. So shared courses, basically, the idea is really to enable or to open some existing courses in our member universities to the whole student community of the Alliance. This is not, of course, it's a nice objective. It is not easy, but we have reached some incredible achievements that are telling us that actually, despite some challenges relating to procedures, some colleagues before already mentioned the challenges with regards to common procedures, etc. How do we harmonize the way we work so that we can make sense of what we want to do together? And the shared courses has been and is a great experience in that sense. So I have here, I shared some numbers or statistics about just the current year since September. The shared courses actually enabled so many students to virtually participate and be, to attend and to be a student in other universities through this opportunity of shared courses. So it goes from all the faculties in our universities can be concerned depending on the semesters, because this is changing from a semester to the other. So I can maybe tell more on this if I get questions about that. So I'm just looking at the time. I want to be consistent with the time for this intervention of mine. Student engagement also seems to us as a good achievement, and it's work in progress. Of course, it's never ending.
There's a second speaker who's got to come in as well in this session. So if you can make some room for them as well, yeah.
Of course. So student engagement, we have a student executive committee that is meeting regularly every month, and we really try and aim to engage our students in so many activities at so many levels. And they are actually, and they are willing to. So this is really a two-way road. And I can share also more about that later on. And last but not the least, some challenges here, and it's my last slide. One of them is actually, and I was mentioning it, just the efforts and the time and the energy, and of course the willpower that we all have to work together and learn to work together. And someone mentioned the common cultures, etc. So it's a lot of work regarding procedures, regarding how to process everything that we want to do together. So maybe this is a challenge, but it is really, it's a challenge that we are overcoming. And the joint platform, and that's my last point, it's really one of the deliverables in one of our work packages in EUP project. And the joint infrastructure, of course, some sister alliances already have that, and we are heading toward having our student portal that will be really operational by the end of the project. And it is a deliverable. So yeah, we have to be successful in that, and we probably will be, but it is quite challenging, as you can imagine, because IT infrastructure to support joint activities, it's never easy when we have 6 different ways to work, etc. But we are really having a great group working on this to make this happen. So I'll stop here and thank you very much.
Thanks, Hakim. That was very interesting. Torben, are you ready to take over?
Yeah, no need to panic, John. I mean, it's me. And I hope you can see my slideshow, because it's called Don't Panic. And I mean, that's really good advice I can give everybody who works with this type of projects. What I will speak about now is nothing very high flying, not about policies, not about anything else, but what I have experienced after being involved in writing proposal we submitted and luckily got Train for EU Plus. I became involved in WP1, and so what I share today are my experiences from working in WP1 on how to develop a common research agenda. And I mean, I worked at universities for 30 years and developed, I don't know how many research agendas, and just doing it for one university is hugely demanding and difficult and fun, and doing it for an alliance with 6 universities is certainly challenging. One of the main aims of WP1 is to find joint activities, the so-called transformative actions that the EU demanded the SWAFS project to develop. And there are some challenges in that. For instance, universities are data-driven institutions. So, and also when it comes to research, very much relevant when we heard about the assessment of research, etc., etc. So we actually spent quite some time to find out, okay, what are the baselines? And I can say there are huge differences in how external research funding is structured and handled across the 6 countries we represent. Then we also have we have the alliance, and the alliance is the sort of core of everything. They have policies, agendas, strategies, etc., etc. And here we have this little SWAFS project, which also has a strategy and agendas, etc., etc. So the alignment of these 2 things, that's also something you need to take into considerations. It's good fun, but it takes a lot of time to sort of get that done. University cultures. I'm an anthropology by trade, and actually did my thesis on not university cultures, but corporate culture. And I can say there are, even though we are 6 old universities, there are huge differences in cultures and organizational setups. So that also is a challenge, but also good fun to learn about what the others do and learn from them. So simply by taking part in a project like this, I have had much more professional development than on many other traditional courses. And what do I know? Okay, what enables work in such a project? We are worker bees. Everybody will know I have sometimes a bit of a problem by following orders. So it is very nice to be in a work package where everybody is a worker bee and where we actually also know each other quite well, a lot of us. We also have a fantastic work package leader in Elena from the University of Milan. I mean, she's extremely kind, extremely knowledgeable, but she's also good at getting people to get things done in the right way, and normally almost on time. That's a key issue. Pick a really good VP lead if you want to work with universities in this way. Also, common interest. We are all a bit of nerds, specialists, I should say. So we have the same interest. For instance,
Torben,
yeah.
a very unpopular work package leader who's not a nerd is going to tell you that you've got 2 minutes left.
Yes, I shall try to speed up then. Okay. Also, tools, be pragmatic, analytical, stringent, but pragmatic when you pick up things. And all this work, I mean, this took a damn long time and many meetings and tons of emails. It ended up in us actually being able to find 4 cases we will pilot at new joint activities. Research services, that's sort of a given. Digital transformation, artificial intelligence, always popular and something that can sort of fit in everywhere at our universities. Sustainability, Green Deal, sort of built in the alliance, and then interdisciplinarity, also because it's sort of a condition for a lot of the things we would like our researchers to do.
Thanks, Torben.
Yeah, I won the competition for it, by the way. I'm the only one who only had 5 slides.
You did, yeah. And I'm sorry, I was a bit brutal with you at the end there. But we actually have a very interesting question in the chat there from Olga, who might like to put it. And I think it's more generally applicable across all of the networks rather than specifically to you in Denmark. But maybe Olga might like to ask her question.
Yes, thanks a lot. I have a question about the political situation in Denmark and how this affects your commitment in the 4EU Plus Alliance.
Political situation. I must admit, I normally only are interested in research policy when the parliament discussed that, and they don't do it very well, I have to say. But
well, yeah, maybe to provide some more details. So they are restricting the incoming student mobility, and this is, I think, fundamental to European University Alliances. Maybe not the research part, but the overall commitment.
Yeah, that's a problem, but not something we can solve. I mean, as an individual university, but luckily for us. But sadly, for the rest of the education system in Denmark, there has been drastic cuts on the number of students, education institutions, higher education institutions can enroll per year. But those drastic cuts have not hit the universities as much as the vocational education part of the system. So it's not a great a big problem for the Danish universities who take part in the alliances. But it is a problem in general.
Okay, thanks, Torben. I think we're running a bit late now, so we're going to try and catch up a bit of time. And Eleonora might like to introduce the next network. I've no interest in this particular one, but...
Thank you. Yes. So I didn't present the 4EU Plus initiative, and John didn't present his initiative. So it's, you know, we don't have any conflict of interest here. So yes, I'm introducing the next case study. Sorry, it's a bit of a list, but I think the more information we have from all the universities, the more we understand the achievements and challenges that each university has until now. So I'm introducing the EUT Plus case study, and in particular, Timothée Toury and Yvonne Desmond. Timothée Toury is Corporate Secretary of the European University of Technology Alliance, EUT Plus. He co-initiated the original idea and the vision of the EUT Plus initiative. He has been associate professor at Université de Technologie de Troyes since 2006 and member of several boards or steering committees in higher education institutions and an expert in university governance at the international level. Timothée, you have the floor.
Thanks, thank you a lot. I will share my screen and hope it works well. So I think that you should see it in full screen mode, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so thanks to all the organizers for this opportunity to introduce EUT Plus and listening to the other one and to all the very interesting questions you are dealing with right now. So I will give a general overview on EUT Plus and the purpose, the objective, what we are doing, and then Yvonne Desmond will focus on a point more related to open science. So we are 8 universities across Europe, 8 technical, technological or polytechnic universities. And as you can see, we try to balance as much as we can across Europe. And our common point is mainly to focus the question on both research and education on the technological problem integrated in societal aspect with a very strong point of view on humanistic technology, not technology seen only as applied science, not technology seen as high-level techniques, but technology as a question of the interaction between the human being on one side and the artifact on the other side. We strongly, when we applied, we strongly push the idea of European values within technology. As you see, there is, I would say, business-oriented technologies that is mainly driven by the United States. On the other side, there is a kind of a control-oriented technology mainly driven by the China. And our question was, where is a kind of European technology with very strong values and close to the European values, of course. This is based on the foundation of core values, and you can see our goal is a complete integration. I will come back on this point just after, on the most ambitious road possible. And even in our mission statement, we were using the word merging. We would like at the end to see if it's possible to merge at the European level. Of course, this is an experiment because there is, as you know, no legal possibility to do this, but we are experimenting this. Involving all parties, all stakeholders, and being fully inclusive, redefining a humanistic technology, redefining the university as an original societal actor, and we fully endorse an alternative vision, both about technology, but the goal of our alliance that should not stay a, let's say, deeper network, but we hope at the end strongly a European university, in the sense that we hope that maybe in 10 or 15 years, we would like to have a single legal entity. So here, this is a timeline, of course, tentative timelines toward what could be at the end federal university, and going step by step from an alliance to an experimental confederation, and then to an integrated confederation, and at the end to a federation. Of course, it opens many questions, but even, I would say, current status are still opening questions. So it's a new kind of question, new kind of spirit, and with the idea that each partner will not go always at the same speed. They can sometime on some point go further and faster than the other one, but we will all decide together what we will have to do. So we will work in different circles according to what the partners are able to do, depending on their national laws and regulations, and the wishes, of course, of the academics and the governance of each partner. Up to now, it works quite well. Here, just introducing some milestones. About 4 or 5 months ago, almost 6 months ago, we signed a roadmap agreement establishing the partner commitment to this idea, the general dynamic and ambition, and a clear roadmap towards this idea of building a single university at the end. And yeah, 3 months later, it has been transformed to a new memorandum of agreement, setting up the governance bodies, establishing a general secretary, defining an experimental international legal structure, and each partners ask their national ministry go ahead in principle toward a European merger, to wonder what it means and would the national ministry support this idea. Up to now, 5 of the 8 national ministry answer positively. Oh, this is so strange, but so exciting what you are doing, and we would support you as much as we can. Just an example here about education, and then I will come back on research. We signed an MOA establishing bachelor and master in engineering at the EUT plus level with building clusters. We are putting together the national degrees and having a common path of convergence towards a common set of learning outcome and sharing by automatic recognition as much courses as possible. We started in fall with 3 clusters: network and telecommunications, civil engineering, and mechanical engineering. And it has been extended a couple of weeks ago with industrial engineering, food science and technology, and architecture. This is supported by International Team Coordination Office, mainly coordinating international activities, addressing the question of multilingualism and multiculturalism, and negotiating a TUT plus level strong partnership. As you know, the devil is hidden in the details, and to have a smooth and efficient mobility, there are a lot of technical questions, and we established a common Erasmus office that will coordinate all the Erasmus activities to offer a seamless experience of traveling to the students. So we are hoping that COVID crisis is almost over right now, and having the barriers, the frontiers that are opened, but we need to provide to the student something that is as seamless as possible on all the practical aspects. Technically, we are trying to provide as much tool as possible. Here you can see the example of an intranet portal for EUT+, on which all work package, all tasks, all activities can use any tools they would like to have, Drive, for example, or audio, video conference tools, and so on. It's a kind of intranet. Coming now to research, in November 2021, a MOA has been signed by the rectors about European Research Institute, establishing the principle that on many thematics, we will gather the strengths of every partner to have something that will link as much as possible the researcher and thinking to a road toward what can be a European Research Institute. We're mainly working on the affectio societatis, so that every academics feel belonging to a European system, not having the European system as a hat to the national system, but at the end, when I will ask my colleagues, let's say, for example, in the nanotech lab, I would like them to answer, when I ask them, which lab, which institute are you belonging to? We would like them to answer, I am belonging to the Nanoscience European Research Institute. Of course, it's built by sharing PhD students, by opening mobilities to the researcher, enhancing mobility to the researcher, sharing infrastructures, set up devices, tools, and getting money together, of course. For European Research Institute,
Timothée, sorry,
yeah.
You have 2 minutes left to leave.
That's fine.
Speech. Also for Yvonne, thank you.
Yeah. Four thematics are open: European culture and technology, one more about philosophy and technology, sustainable science, nanoscience and nanomaterials, and data science. This is supported by a European Research Office. The role of this office is mainly liaising with external project partners and relevant national and European funding bodies, offering information, consulting, and training. So all the support that can be provided at the European level. Not only coordinating, but supporting all this kind of practical daily question. About the technology transfer, as a university, as universities of technology or technical university, we have a strong activity in technology transfer, such an office too, that will be the contact point for all researchers of EUT+ in relation to European technology transfer and management of intellectual property rights. This is a quite difficult question to address because the national regulations are very, very different at the European level. And the template agreement to strongly establish the European Research Institute has been validated a couple of weeks ago, so that it can be now signed as soon as the thematics are well defined. And I suggest now to give the floor to Yvonne, who will focus on the open science question.
Thank you very much, Timothée. Yvonne Desmond is Open Research Manager in Technology University, Dublin, Ireland. She is involved with the EUT+ Alliance to promote and develop open research deliverables, among which an institutional repository and an academic press. Thank you, Yvonne.
Just to proceed very quickly through this, basically, the work package I'm involved with is to promote open research within the EUT+. A really important part of that is to come up with a common understanding, policies and strategies. And in fact, the common understanding is quite a difficult thing to achieve. So the very first thing we did was produce a glossary of terms so that we were all sure we were understanding the same thing. We favor the green route to open access to publications as being more cost effective than the payment of article processing charges. Anybody working in this area knows how open research is evaluated is really, really important. We are aware that people need training, researchers in particular, how to properly operate in an open research environment. And we had two specific deliverables. One was to produce an open access repository for the EUT+, and the second was an open access academic press. So absolutely no pressure. So what have we achieved so far? The very first thing we did in April 2021 was to do a survey of the Alliance members, all 8 universities. And this was really quite interesting because it indicated that while we were at different levels with regards to open research, most of us had achieved quite a lot of success with open access to publications, but not so much in other areas. We will run this survey every year. And again, what came out of the very first survey was the potential conflict with national evaluation systems that don't necessarily value open research. We've agreed a statement on open research, which is basically a statement of how this will operate within the EUT+, and this is to be signed by the rectors very shortly. When it came to both the academic press and the institutional repository, we felt the time frame, which is 3 years, was quite short, so that we had to use existing infrastructure. So for example, with regards to the academic press, we use Digital Commons software for our institutional repository in TU Dublin. That is a very highly developed publishing module. So with the agreement of the vendor, we've agreed to host the academic press for the duration of the pilot, and we've built workflows and processes around that. The approval process and the peer review process will be devolved to each individual university. And we hope very much to have our first publication in June. With regards to the EUT institutional repository, which went live yesterday, we have worked in partnership with OpenAir, which has successfully harvested 6 out of the 8 members. 1 member does not have an institutional repository, which will be able to use the facility to deposit directly into the EUT repository if that's what they want to do. And the other member will be in the next update. So the work program for 2022, we're working now at looking at a common research information system demonstrator. This was actually kind of a new development that we hadn't anticipated in the beginning. But to actually proceed forward, we need to have really good management information. For example, the repository on OpenAir will give us a lot of really good analytics, and we felt that we could bring all the research outputs together and analyze that. That would be really good. The metrics are becoming really important. As the nature of the institution that we are, we want metrics that would suit us. So people are actually looking to produce a set of metrics that will work for the EUT+. None of us have signed DORA or Leiden, so we're trying to find out which one would be the best one for us. And if there is time, and there may not be because this is quite an ambitious project, we feel there is a need for generic training programs on open research, in particular with regards to open data, and that we would work with other work packages where that was appropriate. So at the end of the 3rd year, we would hope that we will produce a set of briefing documents basically on how open research will operate within the EUT+. We will produce a business case, if that is warranted, for the establishment of the free to read, free to publish academic press, preferably with the managing editor. We will recommend the continued use of OpenAir or not, as the case may be, depending on the performance. We'll have recommendations for a common research information system, a set of KPIs for open research, and a recommendation to sign either DORA or Leiden, at which stage our work will be done. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. I would like to take one question from the chat from Dohi. I don't know if I pronounce well, Dohi Max Seating, if you want to open your mic.
Thank you very much. My broadband is down, so I had to route through a hotspot, so apologies for any lack of quality. I thought the approach that EUT+ were taking in terms of the memo of agreement for research institutes and thinking about the questions that would come up was really interesting and very advisable. It was interesting to me also that you mentioned questions around the legal status of the research institutes, and with, I'm assuming, knock-on implications for things like being named as partners on bids and so on. And so I'd be really interested to hear more about that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your question. Actually, the way we have to work is, I will not answer only to the European Research Institute, but then I will come back to your question, of course. When, for example, we are working for clusters in education, the question is, we are not taking too much time to think about the status, but we are taking time to design what should be the student experience. On research, we will take time to design what should be the academic, the researcher experience, working on what should be our job. It's mainly designing the university and not fighting with the legal and national, the legal regulation. I'm sorry. So we are working, of course, with the ministry to explaining what we would like to have and to ask them to provide us the right shell. We are filling the shell and we ask them the shell. This is basically the spirit, not only, of course, because we are wondering what it should be on the legal point of view. Up to now, what the discussion are about this question of legal status. For EUT+, the most appropriate status that people is thinking about is a European grouping of territorial cooperation. So this is nothing so strange. You can see UCOR, for example, and I know that other alliances are thinking to the same kind of global status for the European university, at least for the next years. Later, we will see if the European Commission and the member state can provide something more that fits more to what we need. And about the European Research Institute, it might be for a while a kind of complex status with both a piece of the European grouping of territorial cooperation on one side and still the national status on the other side, because for legal questions, sometimes the researcher need to have a national link to something. It depends on the countries. So it will be a kind of mix and balance, and not unfortunately a single status for what it can be, but more a kind of agreement between pieces of status. So something quite complex, but we hope that it will be not the very end status, but something for the next 10 or 15 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we can, John, you can continue with the last presentation.
Thanks, Eleonora. And I have to say thanks, Timothy, and thanks, Yvonne. I know I'm not supposed to be interested in it today, but well done. So thank you. Our final speaker today then is from the Universa Initiative Alliance, and the speaker is Eric Tschirhart, a special advisor to the rector of the University of Luxembourg, and who already coordinates 2 university networks. Universa is one, and the other one is a larger regional network based around where Eric is. So Professor Eric Tschirhart, PhD, MBA, has worked in the pharmaceutical industry, joining University of Luxembourg in 2020. Eric.
Thank you, John. I'm very pleased to be here today, and I will try to save a little bit of time because I will a little bit late, and will still have tried to also to make you a long journey far enough so that you may understand what university is. I hope that you will see my screen in full screen. Normally it should be okay.
Yep, perfect.
The essence of university is a little bit different than the classical European universities that we have seen for now. We all started in December 2020 almost, and I will show you a little bit what we are. The main concept of university is the following. We focus all our work on within one sector in Europe, which is the space sector, and taking into account social, societal, and environmental challenges for this initiative. So the comprehensiveness of university is the following: is that we are looking at Earth and humanity, hence the name of European Space University for Earth and Humanity. So it's looking at space from a global point of view, and this makes quite a difference in comparison to other universities. And one of the final objective of this long-term vision for education for university is the last bullet, because the other ones are pretty classic, is to strengthen the European Union as a global leader in the space domain. We are lacking in Europe education in space from a global point of view, and I will try to show you how we can work on it from the different partners that we are part of. Now, it's a pan-European alliance from 5 partners, so we are relatively small. The coordinator is Université Fédérale of Toulouse-Midi-Pyrénées, and as a federal university, it embeds 24 different entities within Toulouse. We have AGH in Poland, in Krakow, Luleå Technical University in Luleå, HHU, Heinrich-Heine University Düsseldorf in Germany, and we as University of Luxembourg, we are the smallest partners all over this alliance. In a nutshell, Toulouse is big. It's 100,000 students and 99,000 teaching and research staff and 24 different higher education institutions. Just in a nutshell, it's the first city in France for student life. If you want to go there, there's a good reason for to. Luxembourg, smallest partner, a bit more than 6,000 students, and approximately 1,400 academic staff. And we were created in 2003. If some of you may be interested, we have quite a nice story to tell about that. HHU, first cluster of excellence, first citizen university in Germany, also something like 36,000 students and 5 faculties. And if you go to Luleå, it's a technical university. They have been working with Toulouse since quite a while in space industry, and it's the first research commissioned research within industry in Sweden. So they're pretty knowledgeable in everything which is related to space technology. 15,000 students. And lastly, AGH, which is quite large too, 33,000 students, and they are mostly experienced in digging. They were digging coal before. Now they're digging on asteroids, and they have large contracts with ESA in this context. Now, the question of having a comprehensive space university was a challenge for us, and we took a little bit of time before submission to find out how we can configure a space university in Europe. So we isolated 6 fields of operation for universities. The first one was science engineering. The second one was economy, business, and finance linked to space, again. Medicine and health, how do you survive in space? And this considered settlement in some part of it. The fourth part was human and social sciences. How do you consider human being in the space environment? And the fifth one was art and cultural study, because you have to concede also that people may live in space and they would need also this part of their life. And the last one, which probably is of importance now, is innovation and entrepreneurship in space. Now, these are the 6 essential fields of university. And now we also link these spaces to 4 domains of operations. And 4 domains of operation which are linked actually to how we see space for ourselves. The first one is our Earth, which is linked to societal and environmental challenges. The second one is sustainable space. How do we cope with mass of satellites and mass of debris which are around the Earth? And the third one is space settlement resources. How we go to the moon, how we do settle to the moon and potentially to Mars or other planets. And it's technology speaking, it's very complicated. And the fourth one is space exploration and deep space. And you may see at the very top of the slide that we put the little icon to manipulate this deep space approach. Now, in a nutshell, just to give you the variety of things that we're looking at, it's geodata, it's navigation, it's climate change, it's earth science for our Earth, and very much more. For sustainable space, it's access to space, it's space law, what belongs to whom, satellite constellations, space debris, and Earth observations. We have space settlements also, which concern for architecture, how we're going to design your space habitat on the planet, how we are going to look for telemedicine, water management, confinement, and so on. And if you look back to deep space, it may go to culture, sci-fi, cultural studies, space probes, and everything. So it's something which is really comprehensive by definition. And I feel that it would be, it's of interest for the space sector in general. Now, the question of being a comprehensive university on the space sector is something which we can modelize. And in this context, if you make up a matrix of the different domains and the different fields, you end up in vertically in the fields and horizontally in the domains. And we try to develop courses within the different matrix box so that we can deliver what is necessary to have a sort of comprehensive approach to the space sector. Actually, we are committed to have almost 24 courses, options, or programs within the different fields. And for a very substantial example, we have already developed 12 new shared courses between all institutions, and we are developing, actually it will be operational for Easter, for the Easter egg hunt. We will have a shared learning management system which will home all these courses. Interestingly enough, these courses are completely new. They will build up for university, and they also build up for training students for a new way of looking at space. Now, we have also partners, and you know that space is a difficult environment. Just in a nutshell, we have more than 50 partners at the moment. It's just an extract of the people that we have embarked on the project. We have SES on the far left of the slide, which is a company in Luxembourg, which is you may know it's Astra Satellites. We have also Airbus. We have Thales. We have Spire, which recently went on the stock exchange in New York with $1 billion valorization. We have also Campus France, for example. We have National Research Agency. We have students. ESN is part of the story. And so we expect from these people to help us in finding out what is necessary for the 5, 10, or 15 years for space education and research in Europe. Now, also what we've done is that we wanted to have an advisory board. Having an advisory board for us was something which was extremely important because we wanted to have critics and critics which could be positive. And I guess what we found very important people in Europe. As you can see, we have people from the European Parliament, European Space Agency. We have one very interesting person, which is Thomas Kozlowski from the European Investment Fund. And I will probably come back to you because he proposed me yesterday. A very interesting.
2 minutes, Eric.
Pardon?
2 minutes, Eric.
A very interesting solution for helping students. Now that's very quickly. So the SWAFS case beyond university, it's a question of prospective research part of university. I will go very, very quickly. We have a research roadmap which we set for 2035 and 2050. We are committed for a single lab for research community, and we are already addressing knowledge transfer innovation strategy from the IGH point of view. And we have an outside the lab and a collaboration with policymakers, which are part of very heavy work package for university. Now, the long-term vision for research is the following. We need the space research roadmap for 2035. Space is complicated, we need time, and we already assume that with European Parliament, we are discussing about a vision for 2050 as EU as a cornerstone for space development. Now, the question of single labs is something which is very similar to Erasmus plus single labs, single class. I won't go into details. If you have time to read the slide afterwards, that would be nice. And the question for us is changing teaching and learning and research environments. And to make a very long story short, we have these full work packages in education, which are linked actually to the research work packages. And we have this intersection between the two, which is absolutely crucial for students, for student education. Now, last but not least, and if I can be a little bit oniric, the first thing for us is to break the rules. We want progress, we don't break the rules. If you stick to the rules which are existing for European universities, we want progress. And just to be in contrast to what I've seen before, I want to make people panic, because if they are panicking, we make progress. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. That was a very interesting presentation. And indeed, I am panicked by the end of your presentation. So breaking the rules is always a good place to be. One thing that intrigues me about your collaboration in particular is you very specifically identified the area of space. And I'm just wondering what kind of discussions took place among the partners when you were narrowing down to just space?
Well, the question of space is almost a philosophical question. People who are working in space, and it was my case years ago, people are thinking on a very long term. And when you put people interested by space together, they start to dream. The problem is, which is very, very critical in European university, that most people working in space think on the 15, 20-year base. And when we are looking at Erasmus project, we are on a 3 or 5 year space. So the question of making people dream on the long term and make them something factual on the short term was extremely interesting. But in that case, to answer very precisely to your question, these people are very rare. And this is one of the issues in Europe. People working on space are rare in an educational context.
Actually, if we might open the conversation more generally, now, that's a very interesting segue into a question that Dipti has just asked in the chat. And Dipti, you might want to say a little bit about SWAFs and Erasmus and extending beyond.
Yeah, hi, how are you? No, I was just saying that the SWAFs is such a limited program and it's a small scale. And on one hand, they're trying to encourage us to break down our silos within our own organizations. And I think they could practice what they preach in terms of breaking down the silos between Erasmus Plus and Horizon Europe. So I think we could, as an organization, EARMA could look for ideas on how to do that.
Well, why don't we just hand that question over directly to Ludwig about breaking down silos?
Yes. Can you repeat the question, please?
So Dipti, if you want to summarize what you've just said.
No, I was just saying that I feel SWAFs was a limited. They gave us a nice little program that we could all participate in, and then we, in Horizon 2020, and it was leftover funding. But we haven't. I think we could, as European University Alliances, be more ambitious in terms of a framework within Horizon Europe and a set program. So not just SWAFs. And I think, but the other thing is, I think my sort of key argument with, based on what you said, Ludwig, these alliances or initiatives can break down silos within our own organizations. I think the Commission should break down their silos between Erasmus Plus and Horizon Europe.
Well, two very quick remarks on this. First, indeed, this synergy between the different programs is something that we have all been calling for years. It's program after program that we repeatedly mentioned that there should be much more interactions between them. I don't think that this is just a topic regarding alliances. This is global. There should be very strong educational components in the Horizon Europe and vice versa. That, unfortunately, we know that at the moment, there is progress in the sense that the two programs, Erasmus and Horizon Europe, do have now in the legal basis something that links the program between them. There is this now article in one program mentioning the other one, vice versa. That's progress. That's not enough, because the Commission, when we repeatedly come back to them saying, well, yes, okay, it's in the legal basis, but how do you make this concrete? They don't know. Okay, that's the first remark. Regarding the alliances themselves, actually, I think that the SWAFs, by essence, was the necessary good first step, because it is a mostly policy development type of project. And indeed, what we need is really to put people from the different offices, research, education, etc., around the table to think together on what's the common strategy. That was very much needed, but I agree with you, that's not sufficient. The next step is actually, I don't think that first 3 years are necessary to really make this very strong connection between all the components of our universities. Clearly, the similar type of policy development should be continued beyond the 3 years. But then more, let's say, down to the earth, indeed, there should be also specific programs within Horizon Europe to mix education and research within the alliances. So yes, yes, and yes, but it's not on my control.
It does beg the question, though, Ludwig. If Maria Gabriel was to pick up the phone tomorrow and say, Ludwig, please tell me what I should do, what would you say to her?
Well, actually, the legal basis is there, but clearly, indeed, what is missing is a roadmap where they are launching joint calls, where the money comes from both programs. This was actually the very first request that we proposed when we go back to 2018, when we were in that design phase of the alliances. We said, and I remember at this very first meeting of the stakeholder group where there was Code de Catelere from Leroux, I was there, we were several associations, and we immediately said, but why are you restricting yourself by putting the money on the table from Erasmus? At that time, they responded that it was fair, that indeed there was no legal basis for that, for having the two programs putting money to the same pot. Now, actually, they are making a new call, and they repeat the same I wouldn't say mistake, but the same process, while it was possible actually to put money from both sides to the single pot. So I suspect that probably it means that they were not, they did not anticipate enough. And basically they have built the first work program of Erasmus and the first work program from Horizon Europe without thinking that this could have been already anticipated. But I'm afraid they are going to repeat the same again for the next work program. So I would maybe just say to Maria Gabrielle, please ask people to build a joint initiative.
Okay, so on that, Ludwig, at the very positive end, I'm going to hand back to Eleonora to wrap up today's proceedings.
Thank you very much, John, and all the speakers. Just a few words. You may have noticed that we have taken very different universities. These 4 universities were very different. And this was instrumental to show you the diversity of the European Universities Initiatives landscape and all the interesting actions developed at different levels. So many different pilot actions and collaborations, and also institutional repository and academic press. Wow, I think we're going really far on collaboration. What we know is that one of the main obstacles is the complexity of administrative tasks that are required to ensure the successful implementation and delivery of these programs. And that is why administrative services, both in research and education offices, will be the backbone to achieve big transformations and higher cooperation. In any case, this is what we believe here at EARMA. This is what we would like with the first we wanted with this first meeting to encourage the dialogue between research and educational professionals. And to continue this dialogue, we invite you to join our thematic group. And the first date will be the 19th of May in Brussels. EARMA members and non-members are welcome. Of course, you will receive all the information through EARMA networks and the website and the newsletter. So I think we have all the elements here to start a very interesting thematic group. I thank you all the speakers and all the participants who are very active today for this interesting event. And I look forward to seeing you again in Brussels. And of course, invite and pass the details to all of your networks and all the people that you might think would be interested to the next meeting in the 19th of May in Brussels.
Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you had a pleasant morning and you learned an awful lot out of it. And special thanks to Ludwig for doing the opening remarks and giving us some really interesting thoughts about how these projects are likely to develop over the next couple of years. So look forward to seeing you all again in Brussels in a couple of weeks' time, and good luck. Thank you for coming.